"A girl is like a young tree," she said. "You must stand tall and listen to your mother standing next to you. That is the only way to grow straight and strong. But if you bend to listen to other people, you will grow crooked and weak. You will fall to the ground with the first strong wind. And then you will be like a weed, growing wild in any direction, running along the ground until someone pulls you out and throws you away." This is a passage from the novel The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan, and a great example of her descriptive writing full of imagery. Her writing has a mythical quality to it, and so makes it fascinating to read her stories from beginning to end. It is no wonder, then, that this critically acclaimed novel has been translated into 35 different languages, and in 1993 was also adapted into a popular film. Hello everyone. I'm here today to tell you about my chosen author, Amy Tan. She is an Asian American author born in 1952 in the Chinatown section of San Francisco. Her parents met in the U.S. after fleeing China during the Chinese Revolution in order to better their lives. Don't forget, during the 1940s, China was in the midst of a brutal civil war in which millions of people were being killed by democide, which is when the government systematically kills citizens who are in opposition of its views. Her parents shared some of the dark history fictionalized in the Joy Luck Club. Her mother, Daisy, was born into a wealthy family and left Shanghai in a disastrous marriage right before the communist takeover in 1949. She was forced to leave behind her 3 daughters. Tan's father, John, a Baptist minister and electrical engineer, also fled the Civil War in China in 1947. Amy Tan is the middle child of 3, the only daughter, with older and younger brothers. Her given Chinese name is Mei, meaning the blessing of America. Tan lost both her older brother Peter and her father to brain cancer in the late 1960s. After their deaths, her mother decided to move the rest of the family to Europe in order to escape what she felt to be the evil of their diseased house in California. Amy Tan was a troubled child who rebelled against her mother. She wanted to be a part of the modern culture, while her mother wanted her to conform to strict Chinese customs. This has put a huge strain on their relationship. When her family returned to the U.S., she regained her focus on her studies and entered Linfield College in Oregon, where she intended to study medicine, but decided to pursue a degree in English. Tan transferred to San Jose State University, where she earned her Bachelor of Art degree in 1973. In 1974, she received her master's degree in English and linguistics. Tan enrolled in the doctoral program at the University of California, Berkeley, but withdrew from the program in 1976 after being shaken by the murder of her best friend. From 1976 to 1981, she worked at as a language development specialist for disabled children. She edited medical records and worked as a technical writer during the 1980s. Her first fictional writing was the novel The Joy Luck Club. This book was a huge success and rose quickly on the New York Times bestseller list. She followed her initial success with many more novels, focusing on the cultural differences between Chinese and American societies. Amy Tan's fictional stories cover many topics common to the Asian American life experience, including immigrating to the U.S., adjusting to a new way of life, and finding a balance between the two cultures. The style of her writing comes from an ancient Chinese tradition called gonggu sai, or talk story, a folk art form of writing where characters teach morals through the narrative. She captures her reader's attention from the first sentence of her story due to her command of the English language. She allows that reader unique access to Asian philosophies that might not be found in historical texts because she focuses on the details of the individual's feelings and the dynamic of interpersonal relationships within the context of society. Although Amy Tan is well known for her enticing tales of Asian American culture, her true talent lies in her imagery and creative use of the English language. In particular, she likes to focus on a person's growth as well as the dynamics between people like husband and wife and mother and daughter. Just as China and the US are very far apart on the world map, their cultures mimic the distance and are also very different. To give a few examples, in Chinese society, there is a strict social structure or hierarchy, along with rules about who can socialize and who cannot. American society is much more relaxed about this. Additionally, the Chinese family shows great respect for not only its elders, but also to its past generations of ancestors. Americans often lack that perspective, and perhaps this is because seen in our placing the elderly in nursing homes versus having them live at home with family members. Similarly, in China, the value placed upon society as a whole or as a particular group is much greater than the value placed on any individual. The Chinese are humble people who place their priorities on the greater good. In the U.S., Americans are taught that humility is a sign of weakness and that everyone needs to toot their own horn to gain attention and praise. When Tan began writing The Joy Luck Club, she wanted to show the world her command for the English language. This is perhaps because she did not receive her best grades in English when she was in school. Here is an example of the sentence from her first draft showing her proficiency. Quote, "That was my mental quandary in its nascent state." End quote. Does anyone even understand what that means? Likely not many of you. Tan realized this and quickly opted for using a simpler language, more like the one her mother used with her, with a storytelling aspect, one that many could understand and relate to. Tan describes her mother's English this way, quote, "Her language as I hear it is vivid, direct, full of observation and imagery. That was the language that helped shape the way I saw things, expressed things, made sense of the world." To me, that is exactly why her novels are so fun to read. It's the language that they are written in. This language is full of description and imagery, but yet undeniably clear and direct. You completely understand her meaning and what she is saying because you feel it too. Here's another example of her use of language. She said that while other children's parents would say, "Be careful when you cross the street or you will get hurt," her mother would say, "If you don't watch out for the cars when crossing the street, you will be flattened like a sand dab fish." Does anyone know what a sand dab fish looks like? It's a cheap fish that can be bought at Asian markets, which is flat as a pancake with two pop-out eyes on top. At the same time, you are being entertained by Tan. She is also teaching you something about the differences in the ways that Chinese and American people think and feel, with the historical background to explain why those differences even exist. I give her novels my highest recommendation. To make it easier for you all to read one of Amy Tan's works, I am also donating my copies to the Rivers Library. I would like to wrap up today with a couple of fun facts about Amy Tan. Her defining moment as a writer came when she was only 8 years old, when she wrote an essay called "What the Library Means to Me." I'm going to let her tell you the details of that story in a moment. But Amy Tan is also a member of a rock band made up of published authors, including Stephen King and David Barry, called the Rock Bottom Remainders. The group was formed because they agreed that authors spend a great deal of time alone, and this would be a great way to socialize. All proceeds from their performances go to charity. I'll show you a short clip from one of their performances, and you may agree with me that writing is Amy Tan's greatest strength. I hope you enjoy, and thank you for listening.